Su Zhao's first love and I were kidnapped at the same time. After a long silence, he still chose me, the childhood friend he grew up with, but within 3 days, his first love, Qin Lianqing, was found dead in a filthy alley in a state of near nakedness. Su Zhao showed nothing on the surface, but I knew he hated me to the bone, so much so that after we married, for 8 years, he never touched me. When I was mocked and slandered in high society, he always stood by coldly and watched. I thought we would remain resentful toward each other for the rest of our lives. Who would have thought that while I was on a business trip overseas and caught in a terrorist attack, Su Zhao, the man who had hated me for a lifetime, would actually hesitate not at all and trade his life for mine. He used his body to shield me from the bullet flying toward us. Before dying, he said with a smile, "Shaoqi, I can finally go find Lianqing. Second brother begs you, in the next life, can you please not stand between us anymore?" I nodded. My heart felt as if it were being ripped apart by knives. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I was kidnapped. The kidnapper gave Su Zhao 2 choices, but this time, I don't want him to save me, nor will I cling to him anymore in this new life. I wish Su Zhao and his beloved eternal happiness. Without me. When I opened my eyes, flames were raging. As expected, I was tied up with Qin Lianqing. The kidnappers were already forcing Su Zhao to choose between 2 options. One is your childhood sweetheart, the other is your unforgettable old flame. Make your choice, young Master Su. I could tell the kidnapper's tone wasn't urgent. Instead, it carried a sense of amusement, curious about whom Su Zhao would ultimately choose. Su Zhao, standing outside the warehouse, remained silent. Beside him, his mother was frantic with worry. "Please don't hurt Yang Chun. We'll pay any amount of money, just name it, don't hurt Yang Chun." After saying that, she urged Su Zhao again, "What are you waiting for? Choose Yang Chun. Her father died saving your father. Are you going to make us owe the Chen family another life now?" Su Zhao remained silent. I knew it. He must have wanted to save Qin Lianqing. She was the person Su Zhao cherished above all else in the previous life. Even after she left, Su Zhao had remained chaste for her for an entire lifetime. And the reason he chose me was because of the pressure from Aunt Su. The kidnappers had already lost their patience. Looking toward the billowing black smoke rising up, they said viciously, "Young Master Su, hurry up. If you hesitate for a few more seconds, you won't be able to save either of them." We gazed at each other from afar through the flames. Su Zhao was looking at me, but his eyes were filled with struggle and pain. "All right, I choose Chen." Just as he was about to say my name, as he had done before, I immediately stood up, mustering all my strength to shout, "Save Qin Lianqing, Su." Zhao looked up. His eyes were full of astonishment. After all, in the past, not to mention life and death moments, even in the most trivial, ordinary daily matters, as long as Su Zhao didn't prioritize me, I would always make a scene, let alone giving him up to someone else. It was Qin Lianqing again. Everyone in Gangcheng knows that the person I, Qin Yangchun, hate the most is Qin Lianqing. Su Zhao and I grew up together. From childhood to adulthood, I had always been convinced that he was mine, so I relentlessly ruined every romance that came near Su Zhao. Whenever a girl got close to him, I would go on full alert. But Qin Lianqing was different. She was the girl Su Zhao liked. She was the one he held in his heart. I can't do anything about her. It's not just dislike, it's also fear. A thick sense of suffocation washed over me as the sea breeze lifted my skirt. I affirmed once more, "Save Qin Lianqing. Don't hesitate, Su Zhao. Save the one you love. This time, I don't want to owe you. I also don't want you to hate me for the rest of your life, too." In the end, Su Zhao took 80 million to redeem Qin Lianqing. When he carried that person and ran out, not once did he look at me, and from my angle, I could just catch a glimpse of the joy in his eyes at having something lost and found again. I smiled bitterly. Even though I knew all along that I wasn't in his heart, I still couldn't help but feel hurt. Over a decade of childhood friendship, Indiana the end, I still couldn't leave even a trace in his heart. Before the warehouse exploded, the kidnappers forced me down a small path, watching Su Zhao's back as he carried Qin Lianqing grow farther and farther away. I remembered again, in my past life, Su Zhao fell into my arms, covered in blood, begged me to let him and Qin Lianqing be together. How wonderful. As he wished. I owe Su Zhao a life now. I'll repay it to him and his beloved in this lifetime. We are even. I, too, have finally found it in my heart to let him go. 3. Thankfully, I didn't have any accidents. The rescue arrived just in time. At the other exit, special police from Harbor City had been lying in wait there all along. I suddenly wondered, then why did something happen to Qin Lianqing before? Logically, she should have been rescued too. However, I didn't dwell on it for too long, because my best friend Shen Tang clung to me, crying her eyes out, seemingly even more frightened than I, the person directly involved. "Woo-woo, Yang Chun, you scared me to death." The rope tied to my wrist was Loosened, I patted her head and said with a laugh, all right, I'm fine. Shintang was filled with righteous indignation and pointed toward the front door for me. That scoundrel Su Zhao. He actually chose Qin Lianqing. For a low-class nobody, he even abandoned his fiancée. Yes, Su Zhao and I are engaged. It probably won't be long. Tomorrow at the latest, the exclusive scoop from Harbor City would report. The Su family's young master abandoned his fiancée and chose Qin Lianqing. This is thorough indeed, turning me into a laughingstock within the circle because the old me always insisted on dragging Su Zhao around to show off our affection, flaunting it loudly to everyone around. Su Zhao loves me very much. In reality, many things were fabricated and concocted by myself. Thinking about it now, it was truly childish. Genuine love doesn't need to be flaunted. The more someone lacks something, the more they tend to flaunt it. Shintang was still furiously cursing Su Zhao to vent her anger on my behalf. I interrupted her and calmly dropped a bombshell. They dated. Su Zhao and Qin Lianqing had dated. This was something Su Zhao personally told me in the later part of my previous life. They were forced to separate because Aunt Su did not approve. Shintang's eyes widened. She looked utterly incredulous. I smiled indifferently. So, saving your beloved, it's understandable. Amidst the chaos, a man in a black suit with a silver earring flashed by. I squinted. I was quite sure I hadn't seen wrong. Nearly 190 centimeters tall and wearing a silver earring, he had an extraordinary presence in Hong Kong City. Only one person fits that description, the heir to the Zhong family, Zhong Ji. For late at night, Shintang drove me back to the Su family home according to the butler. Because Su Zhao hadn't chosen me, Aunt Su had punished him by making him kneel in the ancestral hall. He knelt there all afternoon. He was also physically punished. Aunt Su wouldn't let anyone apply medicine to Su Zhao, nor would she let anyone give him food until he admitted his mistake. But in fact, how could Su Zhao possibly think he had done anything wrong? He had saved the woman he loved. He was already relieved before he could even feel grateful. After all, we were husband and wife for a lifetime, and I know him well, and it was true. I didn't blame him. I specifically went to see Aunt Su to comfort her. In the end, it only made her feel even more sorry for me. She held me and cried nonstop. She apologized to me on Su Zhao's behalf and said she was sorry for not taking good care of me. Yang Chen, don't worry. Auntie has already given that brat a good talking to. This time, I definitely won't go easy on him. As soon as this came up, Aunt Su got anxious and upset. This is outrageous. I said long ago that I could never agree to him being with that Qin Lianqing. He actually still dares to put that little temptress above your safety. She took my hand again. Yang Chen, don't be angry. I'll make sure to beat that brat until he personally comes to apologize to you, and then makes you a promise that he'll never have anything to do with Qin Lianqing again. The way Aunt Su cared only about me really moved me. Ever since my father passed away, I had become an orphan fostered by the Su family, but over all these years, I never once felt inferior or overly cautious because I was living under someone else's roof. It was entirely because Aunt Su treated me like a precious treasure. He cherished me like a precious pearl, even far more than Su Zhao. When I first fell in love, I merely mentioned that I liked Su Zhao. She immediately settled on our marriage. In her eyes, if I liked or wanted something, she would strive to get it for me. My eyes reddened. I threw myself into her arms. It had been a long time since I had been loved so unconditionally. In my past life, Aunt Su passed away early, and she never knew that Su Zhao and I eventually became bitter enemies. I sniffled and said in a hoarse voice, "Thank you, Auntie, but back then, I was the one who made Su Zhao choose Qin Lianqing." I buried my head even lower and told her what I had been wanting to say ever since my rebirth. "Auntie, please cancel my engagement to Su Zhao." As soon as I said that, both Shintang and Aunt Su were shocked. Who didn't know that I loved Su Zhao down to my very bones ever since middle school? I had followed him around like a little shadow, impossible to shake off. At my 18th birthday coming-of-age ceremony, when someone asked what wish I had made, I even stood before all my relatives and friends and boldly said, "I'll marry no one but Su Zhao." So much time has passed, I've already forgotten what Su Zhao's expression was like at the banquet back then. I only vaguely remember that it didn't look very good. How ridiculous. I should have understood then that he didn't like me. Clinging to him was useless. Even giving my heart to him didn't help. If he doesn't like me, then he just doesn't like me. Not to mention that later on, I ignored his wishes and forced him to marry me. I never once considered Su Zhao's feelings. No wonder he looked down on me. 5. Thankfully, in this life, it was still not too late to change everything. After my endless pleading, Aunt Su finally gave in and agreed to help me. Afterward, I went to the ancestral hall with the news Su Zhao most desperately wanted. The 24-year-old Su Zhao knelt quietly on the ground, his eyes deep and profound. His profile was exceptionally perfect. At this moment, he did not hate me as he had in his previous life, nor did he feel disgust in his gaze toward me. There was the most sincere apology. "I'm sorry, Xiaoqi." I shook my head. "It's not your fault, second brother." Su Zhao was taken aback. It's been a long time since I last called him second brother. Probably ever since I confessed my feelings to him. He frowned, but I suddenly smiled at him, a smile free of any resentment, stepping back into the role of a younger sister. In the past, Xiaoqi was immature and disregarded second brother's wishes. "I'm truly sorry. It won't happen again." When I arrived earlier, I already asked Aunt Su to take charge and annul our engagement. When I said the words, "call off the engagement," Su Zhao's usually calm eyes rarely stirred with ripples. He stared at me and said with certainty, "You're angry." I shook my head. I didn't understand. Su Zhao should have been happy that I would finally stop clinging to him, happy that I was willing to make way for him. And Qin Lianqing, yet all he did was reply to me indifferently, "Okay." Then he closed his eyes, refusing to look at me again. I turned away without thinking too much. In this lifetime, our paths end here. That's for the best. 6. Over the weekend, Shentang organized a gathering to help me unwind. Everyone who came was a familiar friend from our circle. After 3 rounds of drinks, the Qin family arrived uninvited. Qin Lianqing, pushed forward by her sister, personally thanked me. She seemed quite afraid of me. Yang Chun, that day, thank you. The people in the private room exchanged glances, all waiting to watch the drama unfold because they all knew I particularly disliked Qin Lianqing. Every time we met, I would inevitably embarrass her without a second thought, calling her a seductress. Seduced Su Zhao many times. I embarrassed her in public. Actually, there's a reason why I dislike Qin Lianqing so much. I'm not wrong. She seduced Su Zhao. Qin Lianqing is the unfavored second daughter in the Qin family. Her parents and brother only dote on her older sister. Before I met her, she had always been a blood donor for her sickly older sister, living just to donate blood for her sister later on. There was a time when she refused to comply and tried to escape from the hospital. Su Zhao and I happened to catch her in the act. Su Zhao was aware of the Qin family's dark secrets and didn't want me to get too involved. He held me back when I was about to stand up for Qin Lianqing, but I broke free. I saved Qin Lianqing. The Su family of Hong Kong is a presence that every wealthy family wants to curry favor with. The Qin family was no exception. They were overjoyed that Qin Lianqing could latch onto a high branch like me. I also protected her as the young girl wished. Back then, Qin Lianqing huddled behind me like a frail little rabbit, malnourished from long-term blood donation. Shentang and I gave her all the delicious food and drinks we had, but Qin Lianqing was not satisfied. I treated her as a friend, even as I declared to the world countless times that I liked Su Zhao. He was my fiancé, yet she still laid hands on Su Zhao. I was furious. Raised by Aunt Su, I grew up spoiled, willful, and hot-tempered. A good friend betrayed me. I absolutely could not tolerate it, so, leveraging Aunt Su's influence, I made a scene and forced the Qin family to make Qin Lianqing kneel in the freezing snow for a full 2 hours, but Qin Lianqing's constitution was too weak. She only knelt for a short while. I heard she was sent to the ICU by the Qin family. Su Zhao got really angry with me for the first time. Yang Chun, didn't I warn you not to make things difficult for her? Her days in the Qin family were not easy. You have disappointed me so much. My eyes turned red. That was the first time I noticed a look of heartache in Su Zhao's eyes. Later, for the sake of Qin Lianqing, he ignored me for a whole month. I finally became afraid. I promised her that I would no longer make things difficult for that person. However, Qin Lianqing was too good at putting on an act. On Christmas Day in Harbor City, Su Zhao asked me to bring gifts and go apologize to her, because I loved Su Zhao. I went, but when I returned that day, the media reported that after I left, Qin Lianqing developed a high fever again. She had a brush with death. She almost didn't make it. Everyone, including Su Zhao, thought I had driven her to her death. I couldn't defend myself. Later, at a gathering of Harbor City's elite, I saw Qin Lianqing, immediately had the bodyguards force her to kneel, and in front of all the prominent figures in Hong Kong, gave her 2 slaps. From then on, my relationship with Su Zhao was completely shattered. Miss Chen, the voice of my sister Qin Lianqing pulled me back from my thoughts. The past events felt like a long, distant dream. Now standing before me was Qin Lianqing, alive. Su Zhao and I had not reached the point of resenting each other. I picked up the wine glass. Looking at the woman my husband had yearned for his entire life, I said with a faint, ambiguous smile, "No need. Su Zhao originally intended to save you. If you want to thank someone, go thank him. I don't deserve it." Qin Lianqing boldly raised her eyes to scrutinize me. She seemed not to believe that I would let her off so easily. Just then, the waiter came in to serve the dishes. Qin Lianqing and I were sitting closest to each other. Amid her scream, a large basin of hot soup was all poured over her. 7. The scene immediately fell into chaos. The looks everyone cast at me were somewhat strange. I lowered my eyes. Here we go again. Because of Qin Lianqing again, I had ended up in this kind of situation where I could hardly defend myself even with a mouth. Su Zhao appeared at just the right moment. Just like now, Qin Lianqing had just gotten burned, and he saw it at once. He rushed in. His expression was chillingly cold. Xiaoqi, I thought you were sincere that day, truly wanting to bring me and Lianqing together. Qin Lianqing in his arms was in so much pain she was almost about to pass out. A large area of burns a little more to the side, and she would have been disfigured. I laughed. I'm genuinely impressed. I admire Qin Lianqing for being so ruthless to herself just to frame me. But in Su Zhao's eyes, this laugh became the smug grin of someone who had done all the bad deeds, a triumphant smile. So he stepped forward, step by step, and grabbed my wrist. Shentang didn't stop him. In just a few moments, searing pain struck. My hand twisted into a bizarre shape in an instant. It hurts so much. Most likely, it's broken. I bit my lip hard. I wouldn't let myself cry out in pain in front of Su Zhao. Shentang was so enraged that she blurted out a string of curses. Su Zhao, are you even human? Always shielding that vicious woman full of schemes. Shentang swept her gaze across the room, who just now dared to step forward and prove that the soup was splashed onto Qin Lianqing by Yang Chen. In the private room, no one dared to lift their heads. Everyone was afraid of getting dragged into this dispute for no reason. Only Su Zhao met Shentang's eyes and sneered, even if I don't know Lianqing that well, don't I know Yang Chen? I pulled Shentang back and walked up to Su Zhao, then asked him, what do you know about me? That I'm vicious, or that I have a heart as poisonous as a snake and scorpion? These were all the words Su Zhao from my past life had repeatedly used to mock and curse at me. The man before me looked at me with disgust and retorted, isn't that the case? I shook my head. Then I glanced at Qin Lianqing, whose eyelashes were wet with tears. If my hands weren't broken, I would have even wanted to applaud that brainless fool. Su Zhao, to think I spent my whole life pining for someone like that. Suddenly, I became very curious. I wonder if Su Zhao would someday see through Qin Lianqing's true colors. Would he regret what he was doing now? 8. The private doctor arrived quickly. Su Zhao had someone treat Qin Lianqing's wounds. He paid no attention at all to me. Even though I was already sweating profusely from the pain today, he was dead set on teaching me a lesson. He sent people to stand guard at the private room door. You won't leave until you apologize. Su Zhao gently stroked my cheek, just as he did when we were children, only, his eyes held a dark, sinister glint. He said, Xiaoqi, has the Su family spoiled you too much, letting you grow up lawless? Then let your second brother teach you. When you do something wrong, you must apologize. Su Zhao wanted me to apologize to Qin Lianqing. I snorted coldly. Second brother might as well dislocate my other arm too. I, Yang Chen, would rather suffer to death than apologize for something I didn't do. A long silence. Su Zhao and I stood opposite each other, silently locked in a standoff. Neither of us was willing to back down. First, it was Qin Lianqing who broke the silence. She said plaintively, forget it, Zhao Ji. Yang Chen definitely didn't mean to do it. Those words only drove the atmosphere even further below freezing. Su Zhao's expression turned completely cold. Xiaoqi really is stubborn. He walked over to Shentang and had her tied up. I suddenly changed expression. Shentang is my closest friend. Su Zhao knew I wouldn't give in, so he used Shentang to threaten me. It had already been explained so clearly, yet he wouldn't even bother to look into it and just believed Qin Lianqing. He made me choose, apologize, or keep butting heads with him. Of course, the price is that I apologize. 1 minute later, he would break one of Shentang's fingers. I was scared. I knew Su Zhao was truly capable of doing it. I understand him. The outwardly good-tempered young Master Su is, at his core, actually a vindictive, ruthless, and cunning madman. Time's up. Su Zhao stood not far away, chuckling lightly. The pain of the bone dislocation almost made me unable to think. The moment he approached Shentang, I conceded defeat. I apologize. Shentang's mouth was gagged. Struggling in frustration, I lowered my head. A profound sense of humiliation flooded my entire being, body and soul. My throat felt as if I had swallowed needles as I forced the words out. Su Zhao, I apologize. I walked to Qin Lianqing's side, gazing at the night view of Victoria Harbor behind her. The city lights begin to glow, dazzling and enchanting. I can't remember how long it's been, but it seems like many years ago when I first arrived in Harbor City. Unable to fit into the new environment, when I was bullied, I didn't dare tell Aunt Su. I would just hide alone in the school storage room and cry quietly. It was on a dusk when the sky was ablaze with fiery clouds that Su Zhao found me, carrying me on his back. Step by step, he brought me back to the Su family. He said, if you get bullied in the future, don't be so foolish, your second brother will back you up. He said, whoever dares to bully my little Chi, I'll kick them straight into Victoria Harbor. The youthful vows remain, but the person has already changed. The tears I desperately held back finally fell. I was the fool. I thought that even without love, there was still the bond of over a decade as childhood friends. Choking back sobs, I drew a clear line with Su Zhao. You never believe me. In your eyes, everything I do is wrong, and it's all to make things difficult for Qin Lianqing. Fine, I admit it, but from now on, you are no longer my second brother, not someone I like, nor my second brother anymore. We sever all ties and have no further relationship. Su Zhao saw me crying so heartbrokenly. He wavered a bit. I didn't pay attention. I bent down, intending to apologize, but I was interrupted by a pleasant voice, quite lively. The person who arrived was Zhong Ji. He stepped forward, careful not to hurt my injured arm. He supported me gently. His hand was broad and warm, resting cautiously on my waist. It straightened my back. I spoke slowly, addressing Qin Lianqing, without any courtesy. Some people are born with an unyielding spirit. Her apology is not something just any Tom, Dick, or Harry can accept. Don't you agree, Miss Qin? I was stunned, gazing at the man beside me who stood up for me. This wasn't the first time Zhong Ji had saved me. The last time was outside the fire. Another time was in her previous life. In their previous life, the Su and Zhong families were, it would not be an exaggeration to say, rivals in Hong Kong's political arena. Their relationship was far more strained than it is now. Naturally, every move of the heirs of the two families drew intense public attention. Unfortunately, Zhong Ji had a congenital physical defect. He was hearing impaired, but even so, wherever he went, people treated him politely except me, because Su Zhao had once been displeased that I had any contact with Zhong Ji, so I avoided him like the plague. I even publicly embarrassed Zhong Ji, casually mocking him at the matchmaking banquet the Zhong family had prepared for him. Who would ever fancy a deaf man, yet who could have imagined that this very man, later on, when Aunt Su passed away, would ignore me completely when I was reduced to having no one in the circle to protect me and everyone bullying me. It was he who extended a helping hand, pulled me through. Moreover, Zhong Ji introduced me as a distinguished guest of the Zhong family, granting me full honor and dignity. For some reason, my nose began to tingle. In 2 lifetimes, it was always this person who stepped in to preserve my pride and dignity. Zhong Ji brought a USB drive. He had someone projected on screen in front of everyone. It replayed the entire incident of Qin Lianqing getting scalded just now. In just a few minutes, the situation completely turned around. The end of the video, Zhong Ji raised an eyebrow and delivered a sharp critique. Miss Qin, have you had enough of this self-directed, self-acted drama? Instantly, Qin Lianqing's face turned deathly pale, along with Su Zhao. Su Zhao's expression became extremely awkward. He silently sized up Zhong Ji, his gaze falling on Zhong Ji's hand resting on my waist. In the utterly silent atmosphere, he said softly, Xiao Qi, come here. I didn't move. Instead, Qin Lianqing immediately stood up. Seeing that the truth had been exposed, she grabbed Su Zhao's arm, her voice soft and sweet. Her eyes were full of tears. Brother Zhao, I can explain. Give me a chance. I can explain. Su Zhao remained unmoved, without even glancing at her. Apologize to me. It was second brother's fault for wronging little Seven. After we go back, whatever way you want me to make it up to you and apologize, I'll do it. But for now, he forced a perfunctory smile. Little Seven, can we not let outsiders interfere in our matters? Every word he said was aimed at Zhong Ji. You are no longer my second brother. We have nothing to do with each other. Also, I reminded him, the outsider you're talking about is my boyfriend. Outside the window, the sky over Harbor City suddenly darkened. Su Zhao did not say another word. 11. After I finished bandaging my arm, I looked at the man across from me. I sincerely thanked him. Thank you, and sorry for my rudeness in my previous life. Zhong Ji was still frozen in place, not knowing what he was thinking until his assistant covered her mouth and chuckled softly, stepping forward to tease. Mr. Zhong, snap out of it. Your girlfriend is talking to you. Why are you ignoring her? My face flushed red. I quickly clarified, that was just something I said on the spur of the moment, a stopgap measure, just a stopgap measure. Don't take it to heart. I just instinctively protected Zhong Ji. I didn't want Su Zhao to attack him. I noticed the redness and heat in Zhong Ji's ears gradually fading away. He lowered his eyes. He suddenly looked dejected. Then if I want to be Miss Chen's boyfriend, what conditions do I need to meet? Just then, my best friend Shen Tang called and chattered excitedly to me. Yang Chen, I've already tattled to Aunt Su for you, that Su Zhao. After treating you like this, he'd better watch out, and that Qin Lianqing too. Aunt Su won't let them get away with it. Shen Tang's unrestrained voice drowned out Zhong Ji. I only saw Zhong Ji's lips moving. I couldn't quite make out what he said. I looked at him in confusion, but he shook his head and turned away. Outside was the boundless, glittering night of Victoria Harbor. 12. Zhong Ji took me home. He handed me a file. It was the evidence he obtained outside the warehouse where I had been kidnapped that day. He suspected that the kidnapping had also been staged and orchestrated by Qin Lianqing. Qin Lianqing had done it very cleanly. Zhong Ji spent a great deal of effort before he managed to uncover the slightest clue. As he said this, his legs were crossed. He was sitting not far from me. Warm yellow light fell on him, giving him a relaxed, languid posture. Hand this over to the police, and Qin Lianqing should be going to jail. My thoughts aligned perfectly with Zhong Ji's. I was originally planning to investigate this kidnapping myself. The prime suspect is Qin Lianqing. He was one step ahead of me. Somehow, looking at the documents on the desk, an impossible idea suddenly popped into my head. I probed. Zhong Ji, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that about you earlier. It's fine, just as expected. He said it lightly, not taking it to heart. I was overjoyed and immediately asked everyone standing around to leave. Then I squatted down beside his leg, blinked, and said, Commissioner Zhong, long time no see. The person before me stiffened. I immediately concluded that Zhong Ji had also been reborn in his previous life. Zhong Ji, at just 40 years old, was the youngest administrative commissioner in Hong Kong. The day he took office, I also attended and sent generous gifts. By then, none of us were young anymore. I apologized to him once again regarding the matter of slandering him at Zhong Ji's matchmaking banquet in the past. I have always blamed myself, otherwise, he might not have remained unmarried for so many years. A solitary man. This became a burden on my heart. Zhong Ji knew it too. However, this happened after Su Zhao and I got married. Zhong Ji in this lifetime has no idea what I'm apologizing for, so he must have been reborn too. Even after being reborn, he still doesn't hold a grudge. He still helps me without bearing any past resentment. He still stands up for a complete stranger. Miss Chen. Zhong Ji seems really afraid of me crying. The usually composed, unflappable bureau chief who could handle anything with ease and never bat an eye even if Mount Tai collapsed before him was now flustered and at a loss, awkwardly wiping my tears away. You, don't cry. I buried my head in his arms and said in a muffled voice, don't call me Miss Chen. Zhong Ji's Adam's apple bobbed. It took quite a while before he spoke again, his tone tinged with helplessness and resignation, calm and reassuring. His voice was gentle as he said, don't cry. Yang Chen. In my memory, a light drizzle fell over the harbor city. I once waited with this stern-faced director for a rainstorm to pass. It was not long after he had taken up his post, and just before I was about to go abroad with Su Zhao. It was the last time we saw each other. In a temple bustling with people. The temple was majestic, the ancient monastery serene. He carried the pleasant scent of sandalwood. Then, as soon as the rain stopped, we bid each other farewell. He went south, and I went north. That was, for us, a lifetime. Suddenly, I mustered my courage and leaned close to Zhong Ji's ear. With a beaming smile, I said, to be my boyfriend, there aren't really any conditions, as long as I like you. After saying that, I kissed his earlobe. Zhong Ji froze completely, not daring to move a muscle. I was stunned, as if struck dumb by a surprise falling from the sky. In fact, just before I came into the Zhong household, Zhong Ji's assistant told me what that sentence was that I hadn't heard clearly. I didn't even need to think to know. Zhong Ji had liked me for a long time. He hid his love so carefully that even after I realized it, I still didn't dare respond, because back then, I had my own fixation. Obsession becomes a demon. I cannot let go. But now, I must go and cleanse my obsessions. After all, in this lifetime, I too have people I must not fail. 13. I arrived at the Su family home in the early hours of the morning. The lights in the house were off. The room was very dark. I felt my way into my own room. As soon as I entered, I was pulled with great force. Then came the strong smell of alcohol and the sound of urgent panting. Su Zhao was drunk and it was in my room again. In the darkness, he held my body tightly, pinning me against the door. He murmured, Xiao Qi, you don't have a boyfriend. The person you like is second brother, right? Su Zhao urgently wanted an answer, his lips almost pressed against my neck. You don't have a boyfriend. You love me the most. You couldn't possibly be with someone else. You couldn't. Su Zhao spoke with such certainty that it actually made me laugh. So, he knew how obsessed I used to be with him. But in this world, nothing is absolutely certain. I took a deep breath, wanting to put some distance between us. Let go, Su Zhao. When you personally dislocated my wrist for Qin Lianqing's sake, there was no affection left between us. On the way here, I had already sent the materials Zhong Ji gave me electronically to Su Zhao's phone, and I told him I would file a lawsuit Sue his lover. I don't know if he read it, but Su Zhao was drunk. He just kept pulling me and apologizing. Second brother was wrong. Second brother is sorry to little seven. Little seven, forgive second brother. Okay, I promise. From now on, there will never be a Qin Lianqing again. We won't call off the engagement. You are still my fiancé. I really suspect Su Zhao has drunk his brain away. Wasn't he deeply devoted to Qin Lianqing, vowing to marry no one but her? There was pain in Su Zhao's eyes, and his grip tightened with force. He emphasized for me, Shaoqi, you only love your second brother, you don't love Zhongji. As he spoke, he tried to lean in to kiss me. I couldn't take it anymore and slapped him. I didn't hold back, so the slap rang out with a crisp sound in the night. If you're sick, go see a doctor. I pushed him away. I sneered, didn't you love Qin Lianqing so desperately? What? Disappointed now that you found she's not as pure and flawless as you thought? I scoffed coldly. Then your love is nothing more than that. I had to admit that deep down, Su Zhao was a cold and insatiable person. He only ever loves what he cannot have. He always believes that what is out of reach is the best, so he regrets not having obtained Qin Lianqing. He panicked when he saw that I, who had long followed him like a little sidekick, no longer wanted him. Unfortunately, Su Zhao was blind and unable to see clearly in his previous life. The pearl, the white moonlight he regretted for a lifetime. It was someone he himself dared not dwell on. The only thing I don't understand is, if the kidnapping was orchestrated by Qin Lianqing herself, then why did something happen to her in the previous life? It was only much later that Zhongji and I learned this from the kidnappers after they were caught. It was a show staged by Qin Lianqing. She was far too confident in herself, thinking that since Su Zhao loved her, he would definitely choose her, so she could use that to make me give up. But she had not expected that, under pressure from Aunt Su, Su Zhao was willing but powerless. As a result, after they went back, the kidnappers blackmailed Qin Lianqing for a large sum of money, calling it hush money, afraid that the truth would come out. She had no choice but to pay. Qin Lianqing met the kidnappers in a very dark, secluded alley, which was sufficiently hidden. When she was about to leave, an unexpected incident occurred. She encountered a few idle hooligans. That night, Qin Lianqing's harm to others ultimately backfired on herself. I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. For the sake of such a person, Su Zhao and I tormented each other for a lifetime. 14. Su Zhao hung his head. He remained silent for a long time. I couldn't tell whether he had sobered up, or whether I had knocked him awake. He did not step forward again, and a trace of clarity returned to his eyes. What if second brother promises you that there won't be anyone else? The way Su Zhao begged me not to let go left me dazed for a moment, as if in my previous life the one begging me to let go before dying wasn't him, and the one who clung on to the very end wasn't him either. I retorted, then how do you know that my letting go isn't what you begged for in your past life? A silent night. Su Zhao leaned against the wall and lit a cigarette. Scattered sparks flickered in the darkness. His voice was so hoarse he could barely speak. If you can bear it, then fine. We both knew it was over. After more than a decade of living together day and night, Su Zhao understood my temperament. The most stubborn. When I loved him, even if I shattered the southern wall, I would not look back. But if I decided not to love anymore, I would not look back either. In the very end, Su Zhao looked at my wrist. He wanted to touch it. I dodged it. He pursed his lips and asked, does it still hurt there? I didn't answer him, turned around and closed the door. 15. In the living room, someone stayed awake all night. Cigarette butts littered the floor around his feet. I packed my luggage early the next morning. I planned to move out of the Su family's house. Things have gotten to this point with Su Zhao. I can't stay here any longer. The air in Harbor City was fresh after the rain. I called Zhongji and asked him to pick me up, but what arrived faster than Zhongji was Aunt Su. After the last time she enforced the family discipline, she was away on a business trip for 2 days. Upon hearing that Su Zhao had laid hands on me again this time, she nearly fainted from anger. Who knows how much Shintang exaggerated when she complained to Aunt Su. Aunt Su slapped Su Zhao right from the start. I thought Aunt Su's strength must have been considerable. Su Zhao was hit so hard that half his body was knocked sideways. He silently stood guard. He was glared at fiercely by Aunt Su. Aunt Su saw my suitcase and thought Su Zhao was kicking me out. She was itching to rush up and give him another slap, questioning Su Zhao. How dare you defy me? Since when do you get to call the shots in this house? You even dared to drive Yanchun away. Are you trying to kill me with anger? You, I interrupted softly. It's not his fault, Auntie Su. It's not Su Zhao's fault. I told her that I was the one who decided to leave. Zhongji arrived quickly too. He nodded to Auntie Su as a greeting. Then, he stood by my side and took the suitcase from my hand with such an obvious gesture. Auntie Su couldn't fail to understand. She shook her head and sighed. Well then, if it was that little rascal It means he wasn't meant to be. Later, I heard from Shintang Su Zhao was harshly punished by Aunt Su again. Qin Lianqing was also imprisoned in February of the following year. After I moved into Zhong Ji's house, I spent that whole year busy setting up my own studio. I had completely moved on from the past, so when I suddenly heard those names again, it felt as if a lifetime had passed, except, at the end of every month, we would consistently see a black extended sedan parked at the entrance of the villa. Zhongji and I both tacitly ignored it. On New Year's Day in Hong City, Aunt Su called to say that Su Zhao had forcefully suppressed the matter of our engagement being called off. No one could talk him out of it. I said nothing, nor did I want to make sense of Su Zhao's childish, pointless behavior. Time passed quickly. A few months later, on the day of the start of spring, it was my birthday. The Su family, without any warning, suddenly announced the news that the engagement had been called off. The major media outlets in Hong Kong City rushed to report it. When Zhongji saw this trending topic, he held his phone and wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. At least this kid did one decent thing. After that, he held me and looked out the window. The originally overcast sky cleared as the clouds drifted away. Zhongji's tone was tender. He whispered in my ear, "Today is the beginning of spring, today is the beginning of spring." I squeezed his hand back and gave a soft laugh. Looking back on my past, I share the same admiration for spring. Qin Yangchun must be together with Zhongji. It's time to welcome a new spring. The end. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. On the day his white moonlight suffered a massive hemorrhage during childbirth, she sent him a message. "In this life, we are not destined to be together. In the next life, you must come to marry me earlier." Without a flicker of emotion, my husband put down his phone and chose to take meticulous care of me, who was also pregnant. I thought he had long since let go of his white moonlight. Little did I know that after learning his white moonlight truly died in childbirth, he never smiled at me again. Every day, he silently poisoned my food and drink, doubling the supplements to make the fetus in my womb grow larger. It wasn't until the fetus grew too large for a difficult birth that my husband revealed his true face, screaming at me, "Yaya must have suffered like this back then, right? If you hadn't forced me to marry you, how could Yaya have died so tragically? This is all what you owe Yaya. I want you to taste Yaya's pain." In the end, after enduring immense torment, I died from a difficult birth with massive hemorrhaging. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day where you sent that message to my husband, saying Jinghuai, this time, I'll let them have their way and won't be their stumbling block anymore, honey. After we finish the prenatal checkup, I'll take you to eat your favorite barbecue. A familiar voice rang out, and I suddenly opened my eyes out of the darkness, meeting Shenduo's gaze, so gentle it seemed about to drip with water. Either this was a burst of clarity before death, or I had been reborn. Shenduo was driving, and one of his hands was pressing on my Higu acupoint. He knew I got carsick. If I hadn't really died once, I would still be lost in Shenduo's tenderness. At that moment, Shenduo's phone vibrated. He calmly withdrew his hand, and I caught a glimpse of the message on the screen. Just like in my previous life, the text message was from Wu Yu. In my previous life, I never asked, nor did I pay it any mind. Even knowing who had sent the message, I still felt no sense of danger. I trusted Shenduo. I suppressed the hatred in my heart and forced out a faint smile as I asked, "If it's something urgent, you should go first." I didn't point it out deliberately. 5 years of tacit sense were enough for each of us to understand what the other was thinking. Shenduo's face showed no ripple at all as he replied calmly, "It's just a trivial matter. Your business is what truly matters." Yet, after Shenduo finished speaking, he gripped the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles began to turn white. In my previous life, I hadn't noticed these things. Shenduo was merely pretending not to care if he didn't truly care. Why did Shenduo torment me day after day in my previous life? Upon learning that Wu Yu had died in childbirth, I can never forget. When I was hemorrhaging during a difficult childbirth, Shenduo's eyes were bloodshot as he choked my neck with a death grip, his gaze filled with a ferocity I had never seen before, a ruthless severity I had never witnessed. He said, "Ren Leong, I've finally waited for this moment. I'm going to make you experience everything that Yaya went through. Did you know, I never loved you? You forced me to marry you. If it weren't for you, how could Yaya have married that irresponsible trash? If it weren't for you, Yaya wouldn't have died so tragically. I didn't even get to see her one last time. Ren Leong, go to hell." I had no time to process the shock of it all. I was just in unbearable pain. I cried and begged Shenduo, pleading with him to save me. Shenduo's eyes were icy cold. Without saying another word, he watched as I hemorrhaged heavily, struggling in agony until I died. Shenduo prevented the doctors from saving me. After I died, Shenduo didn't even collect my body. Instead, he knelt before Wu Yu's tombstone, weeping uncontrollably. He gently stroked Wu Yu's tombstone, murmuring to himself, "Yeah, I've avenged you. In our next life, I will definitely marry you." I was shocked. All these days, Shinduo had been waiting for this moment, but Shinduo had clearly said that in this lifetime, he would only love me in this new life. I will no longer be part of the tragic love story between these two. Honey, what are you thinking about? You're not upset because Wu Yu contacted me, are you? Shinduo suddenly stopped the car, his voice pulling me back to reality. His eyes were filled with concern, but remembering my tragic death in the previous life, my back was already soaked in cold sweat. I forced a faint smile. Shinduo, you should go check on Wu Yu. After all, a life is at stake. I caught the unexpected expression on Shinduo's face, but I had no idea what he was thinking. Was he puzzled by my sudden generosity, given how possessive I used to be toward him, or had he been eagerly waiting to rush to Wu Yu's side all along, just waiting for me to say the word? In the end, Shinduo still insisted on refusing. I couldn't bear to watch Shinduo's insincere act. My stomach churned with nausea. I suggested accompanying him to the hospital to see Wu Yu. Only then did Shinduo agree, but I clearly saw him secretly breathe a sigh of relief, his furrowed brow relaxing. Actually, Shinduo was right. I did love him deeply back then, but he never refused it either. Initially, Shinduo was just a junior employee at my father's company. If it weren't for dating and marrying me, he wouldn't have reached his current position. My mother passed away early, leaving my father to play both father and mother roles. Unfortunately, before I got married, my father was also diagnosed with a terminal illness. My father never approved of Shinduo, but because I liked him, my father, lying on his sickbed, insisted on hearing Shinduo promise to love and protect me for a lifetime before he could close his eyes in peace. Back then, I thought Shinduo had some genuine feelings for me. Sadly, it was only after I died in my previous life that I found out he just wanted to take advantage of my family's wealth. His lingering attachment to Wu Yu was also because, during the year he loved her most, he couldn't give her anything. After I died, he had everything. But it's a pity Wu Yu is no longer here. From beginning to end, I was nothing but a joke. While I was reviewing the events of my past life, the car came to a stop. Shinduo looked at me with a somewhat guilty expression, yet still gently helped me out of the car. I subtly avoided Shinduo's touch and forced a relaxed smile. The baby is only 2 months along. I'm not that delicate. For Shinduo, this was the first time I had avoided his touch. In the past, I always liked to cling to him. Even the slightest physical contact would make me happy for a long time. Shinduo froze for a moment where he stood, but still turned and headed toward the hospital. His steps were hurried, as if he had forgotten that someone was still following behind him. Such impatience had already betrayed Shinduo's concern for Wu Yu deep in his heart. Clearly, I had already made peace with it, yet when I saw Shinduo like this with my own eyes, my heart still stung uncontrollably. By the time I slowly walked over, Wu Yu was already hiding in Shinduo's arms and crying, "I thought I'd never see you again. Why did you have to marry someone else?" Wu Yu's pitiful appearance, combined with her pale face, was truly heartbreaking and evoked sympathy. Even someone like me, an outsider, was moved. It was as if Wu Yu had never married anyone else. Shinduo pursed his lips tightly and did not answer, but his hand still honestly stroked Wu Yu's back. After learning that Shinduo and I were together, Wu Yu hastily married someone else. Half a year ago, that man got into trouble and was imprisoned, yet she became pregnant. During that time, Wu Yu sent countless messages to Shinduo, pouring out her hardships. Shinduo seemed indifferent, but he secretly sent money to Wu Yu behind my back. I never had a clear concept of money and paid little attention to every penny Shinduo spent. If he hadn't slipped up in my previous life, I might still have been an ATM for others. A nurse rushed in frantically, bumping me aside. I lost my balance and nearly fell. "Are you the pregnant woman's husband? Hurry up and sign the surgical consent form. Don't delay her treatment." Shinduo did not deny the nurse's definition of him, but hastily signed the surgical consent form. I stood at the doorway, like an outsider. In my previous life, Shinduo refused to sign no matter what. Indeed, in Shinduo's heart, Wu Yu truly carries more weight. As Wu Yu was being wheeled away, she passed by Shinduo, holding his hand reluctantly with reddened eyes. "Duo, I'm scared. Will you stay with me?" Just as Shinduo was about to agree, he suddenly caught sight of me, and his words got stuck in his throat. I just curved my lips. "You should go. After all, it's a human life." Having obtained my consent, Shinduo didn't hesitate for even a moment, pulling Wu Yu straight to the operating room. The ward instantly fell silent. and my thoughts gradually cleared. If Wu Yu's condition were truly serious, she wouldn't have waited for Shinduo to arrive. I didn't want to expose this kind of trick either. After a long while, Wu Yu was finally wheeled out, still clutching Shinduo's hand tightly. The nurse looked on with envy. Your husband is really so good to you. If it had been any other man, he would have run away at the sight of such a bloody scene, but your husband didn't even blink the whole time. He stayed with you like that. The nurse's voice was not loud, but it was enough to reach my ears. Wu Yu smiled shyly, although I couldn't keep the baby. Having such a man by my side is enough. As she finished speaking, Wu Yu looked at me, her eyes filled with provocation and smugness. Indeed, Wu Yu had every reason to be smug. Although Shinduo married me, his heart had always belonged to Wu Yu. I didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Let's leave this warm and sweet moment to them. Through the glass, I saw Shinduo looking at my retreating figure. His foot seemed to lift slightly, but then, at Wu Yu's soft call, his gaze immediately shifted to Wu Yu. The two of them returned to the ward together. I stood downstairs, my body trembling from the cold, having forgotten to bring my coat when I got out of the car earlier, and Shinduo, who had always taken such meticulous care of me, didn't notice this small detail this time. When I took a taxi back by myself, looking at the house we had lived in for many years, filled everywhere with traces of Shinduo, an inexplicable wave of irritation washed over me. The sweetness of the past is still vivid in my mind. Shinduo cooked for me personally, washed my underwear, and if I casually mentioned something I wanted to eat, even in the middle of the night, he would drive all over the city to find it for me. He would find it for me. Yet all of this turned out to be fake. Perhaps the words Shinduo said before I died were still true. I called my lawyer, asked him to draft the divorce agreement, and scheduled an abortion surgery. After completing all of this, the weight in my heart lifted. I sat on the couch all night, feeling empty. That night, Shinduo did not come back within reason, yet beyond expectation. I thought Shinduo would keep up the act a bit longer. Fortunately, in this life, Wu Yu did not die. At 5 in the morning, Shinduo pushed the door open and entered. Hearing the noise, I slowly turned my head. When our eyes met, Shinduo showed a flicker of surprise. Why didn't you sleep well? It was just ordinary concern, as usual, but I could no longer detect any genuine feeling in it. Indeed, a person only has one heart. When it's occupied by one person, there's no room left for another. Before I could speak, Wu Yu slowly stepped out from behind Shinduo, a smile playing on her lips. Sister Leong, a duo insisted I come stay at your place, saying there's no one to take care of me now. You don't mind, do you? My brow furrowed tightly as I looked at Shinduo. He avoided my gaze and said nothing. Even someone much duller than me could hear the implied meaning in Wu Yu's words. She was showing off, boasting that Shinduo would risk making me angry for her sake, and if I refused, I would be the one being unreasonable and heartless. I felt disgusted, not because of their sweet intimacy, but because the apartment is mine. Shinduo brought an outsider back without my consent. I let out a cold laugh and turned the question back on Shinduo. Shouldn't you have said something to me first? Shinduo was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, instantly flaring up in anger and embarrassment. Ren Leong, don't be so heartless, will you? Now that Yaya has no one to take care of her and nearly died in the hospital, as her friend, shouldn't I help her? You're my wife, you should be a little kinder to my friend. With just a few words, Shinduo had placed himself on the moral high ground. If it had been before, I would have endured it. After all, I loved him and gave him whatever he asked for. I've already died once, and was killed by the one I loved most with his own hands. In this life, no matter what, I won't keep wronging myself anymore. I let out a cold snort. You seem to have forgotten that this is my house. Everything of yours belongs to me. I have a cleanliness obsession and won't let outsiders stay in my house, nor will I allow the person I love to have someone else in their heart. Shinduo froze, apparently not expecting me to refuse him so decisively. For a moment, he just stared at me. Wu Yu immediately burst into tears and grabbed Shinduo's arm, saying, I know I'm just an extra burden. My husband is in prison, and my parents have cut off all contact with me. I shouldn't be dragging you down. I'll leave now, so could you stop fighting over me? The frost on Shinduo's face melted instantly. Looking at Wu Yu with tenderness, he pulled her straight into the room, as if saying it for me to hear. Stay here without worry. This house is half mine too. Rest assured, even if the whole world abandons you, I won't. Shinduo held Wu Yu's hand like that, and as they passed by me, Wu Yu curled her lips smugly, raised an eyebrow at me, and mouthed to me, saying, Fool, how can a sudden arrival compare to a white moonlight? I smiled indifferently. I didn't need Wu Yu to tell me that. I had known it all along. After settling Wu Yu, Shinduo came downstairs and approached me. his tone suddenly softening. Honey, you know, Yaya has no one to rely on now, only me. Please don't be angry, okay, I'll take care of all the household chores this month. As he spoke, Shinduo reached out to grab my hand, but I sidestepped to avoid it. Shinduo's movement froze midair. I initially wanted to lash out, to question why Shinduo would treat me this way, why he would marry me when his heart already belonged to someone else, why did he have to kill me in my previous life? But the answers to some questions were already clear anyway. I've already decided to step back. Let's keep it dignified. So I reined in my impending fury and said calmly, keep an eye on your friend. Just don't disturb my life. I emphasized the word friend heavily. Shinduo had never known that I was aware Wu Yu was his white moonlight, or perhaps he had long sensed it but was simply deceiving himself. Shinduo still wanted to say something, but I had already put on my coat and was heading out. Today, I am going to abort the child in my womb. Living in a family full of lies is unfair to this child. As I lay on the operating table, the coldness from behind reminded me of my tragic death in my previous life. I had also lain on such a cold operating table then. The light above was so blinding I couldn't open my eyes, yet I still vividly remembered Shinduo's venomous gaze under the effect of the anesthesia. I still lost consciousness. I'm sorry, child, in my last life, I couldn't bring you into this world. In this life, I still couldn't. Please forgive Mom for being selfish. I can't let you be born into a family without a father's love. And I can't so arrogantly believe that children from single-parent families can still be happy. When the nurse woke me up, I was still dazed, and I could even feel the hollow emptiness in my lower abdomen. As if a piece of my heart had been gouged out, I went home with pale lips, and as soon as I walked in, I smelled food. Shinduo was cooking earnestly in the kitchen, while Wu Yu sat by the island counter with her chin propped in her hands. If this home weren't mine, the two of them really would have thought they are a loving couple. The person who once promised to cook only for me can now cook for someone else too. Shinduo probably heard the door and turned to look at me. I glanced coldly at the chicken feathers in the trash and couldn't help but vomit. I am afraid of birds with pointed beaks. Seeing feathers gives me small red rashes on my body, and I never eat poultry. Shinduo knows this too, and we have never had such things on our dining table. But for Wu Yu, Shinduo can ignore everything about me. Shinduo followed my gaze to the chicken feathers that hadn't been thrown away yet and explained guiltily, Yaya is physically weak now and needs nourishment. I'll pack up right away. I withdrew my gaze and responded indifferently. I originally intended to go back to my room to rest, but as I passed by Wu Yu, she grabbed my hand and threw herself backward. The loud noise caught Shinduo's attention. Wu Yu started crying instantly, appearing weak and aggrieved. She looked at me. Sister Leong, I know I'm an eyesore here. If you just tell me to leave, I'll definitely go. You didn't have to push me to vent your anger. Shinduo didn't even have time to wipe his hands before rushing over, he pushed me hard, and I fell to the ground. I felt a warm, wet fluid flowing from my lower body. I looked down and saw that my white pants were already stained red with blood. Ren Leong, you knew perfectly well that Yaya just had surgery and is so weak, yet you still laid hands on her. Are you even human? I never imagined that you could be such a vicious woman. I smiled bitterly. True disappointment isn't about making a scene. That saying took on a concrete form at this moment. Wu Yu had just undergone surgery, and so had I. If Shinduo had turned his attention to me, he would have noticed something was off, but he didn't. Whatever. Shinduo picked up Wu Yu with heartache, glaring at me fiercely. You better reflect on this. Once you've thought it through, go to the hospital and apologize to Yaya. Think carefully. Have I been too good to you all these years? You're spoiled, rotten and lawless. With not even the most basic empathy, Wu Yu raised an eyebrow at me. From an angle Shinduo couldn't see, I stopped Shinduo, who was about to rush out, and he came to an irritated halt. What more do you want? Do you only feel satisfied when Yu is dead? I took the divorce agreement the lawyer had just mailed me out of my bag and handed it to Shinduo. Shinduo, let's get divorced. Shinduo froze. What are you making a fuss about now? The one who did wrong is you. How can you say divorce so righteously? I sneered, tilting my chin toward the surveillance camera. If you have eyes, go check the footage. I don't believe you can't see through such clumsy tricks. Don't be a fool yourself and think everyone else is a fool too. Wu Yu's face instantly turned pale. She probably never expected our house to have surveillance. A duo. Don't blame Luyang anymore. She definitely didn't mean it just now. Put me down. I'm fine. Wu Yu, who had just been crying and demanding that Shinduo stand up for her, was now anxious to settle the matter peacefully. Duo could hardly fail to see the reason behind this. The look in his eyes softened instantly when he looked at me. It's just a misunderstanding. Not worth escalating to divorce, honey, you know. Yaya just lost her child and is emotionally unstable. Please be understanding. I never expected that even with the facts right before his eyes, Shinduo could still find excuses for Wu Yu. The feelings I poured into Shinduo back then were truly laughable. I said indifferently, she lost a child, and I lost a child too, so if I'm emotionally unstable, shouldn't you also be understanding? Upon hearing this news, Shinduo lost control of his emotions. He let go of Wu Yu, rushed over, and gripped my arm tightly, questioning me frantically, "What have you done to our child?" I looked down at my pants, where the bloodstains had already dried. Shinduo followed my gaze, his expression dark and unreadable. I added promptly, "It's not your fault, I had already had an abortion, your push just caused the wound to reopen. I'm not the kind of person who casually pins blame on others." Shinduo frowned. Why? I didn't understand what Shinduo's current sorrowful mood was for. In the previous life, he hadn't cared about our child at all. It was a girl about to be born, yet Shinduo didn't even glance at her body. Now it's only been 2 months. What is Shinduo reluctant to part with? Maybe he had been acting for so long that even he himself had taken it seriously. I only felt amused by the irony as I handed the divorce agreement back to Shinduo. "Because I want a divorce, I won't let my child have a father whose heart is elsewhere. Since you two are so in love, I'll graciously make way for you." What? Is that still not enough? Shinduo stood frozen in place, silent for a long time. Seeing this, Wu Yu immediately stepped forward and hooked her arm through his. "A duo. Since Sister Leong wants to make way for us, just sign it. Now that you already have everything, you can also fulfill the promise you made back then." Wu Yu's little scheme was practically written all over her face. Shinduo was still hesitating when Wu Yu directly handed him the pen and guided his hand to sign. The whole thing was so smooth and seamless that Shinduo didn't even have time to react. This counted as my second time thanking Wu Yu. The first was when Wu Yu died, which allowed me to see Shinduo's true colors. The second was because of her intervention, which let me smoothly get the divorce finalized. Wu Yu handed the divorce agreement to me and smiled triumphantly. "Sister Leong, do you need me to help you pack your things? After all, you're already divorced, so it wouldn't be appropriate for you to keep living here." At this moment, Wu Yu had already regarded herself as the mistress of this villa. I calmly put the divorce agreement into my bag and smiled faintly. "I think, Miss Wu, you probably don't know this yet, do you? Everything in my family belongs to me and Shinduo as premarital property, including this villa. As for what belongs to Shinduo, it's probably only that junk car in the garage." After I finished speaking, I watched Wu Yu's face turn darker and darker. I have my dad to thank for this. He was the one who told me that I couldn't hand over everything from the Ren family to an outsider. Before the marriage, I had already had our assets notarized. After the divorce, Shinduo wouldn't get a single cent. Even the name on this villa is mine. I saw Wu Yu staying silent, so I asked in return, "Do you need me to help you pack?" Wu Yu was so angry she stomped her feet, and she nudged Shinduo. "A duo, say something. You've been with Ren Leong for so many years, how can you not get a single cent?" Perhaps it was Wu Yu's words that finally pulled Shinduo back from his thoughts. His vision cleared, and he roughly shook off Wu Yu's hand. "Shut up." Wu Yu was startled by Shinduo. The corners of his eyes were red as he looked at me. "Wife, why must we get a divorce? Is it just because I pushed you earlier, or are you upset that I brought another woman, came back? I apologize to you. I was too anxious just now. If you mind, I'll drive her out." "Okay, please don't leave me." Shinduo's voice choked with sobs. I couldn't tell if he was being genuine or not, or perhaps Shinduo saw Wu Yu's true colors just now. Indeed, having followed my father for so many years, Shinduo has long become a shrewd person. If Wu Yu truly couldn't let go of Shinduo, she wouldn't have gotten married and had a child, nor would she have turned hostile upon learning that Shinduo wouldn't get a single cent. So, even while his white moonlight was still alive, Shinduo could still be reluctant to part with the person by his side. Is it me he can't bear to part with, our child, or the power I brought him? I lazily lifted my eyes and gave a faint smile. "You were the one who abandoned me and our child first." Even though I knew Shinduo wouldn't understand what I meant, it still served as a vent for the grievances of my past life. When Shinduo moved out, I was already asleep. Whether in these past 2 days or in my previous life, I felt utterly exhausted. In my dream, a soft, chubby little child ran up to me. She took my hand, I crouched down, and she stood on her tiptoes to pat my head, speaking to me in a sweet, childish voice. "Mommy, thank you." I don't know what she's thanking me for, when I clearly stripped her of her rights as a human being. When I woke up, the pillow was already soaked. The empty villa no longer carried Shinduo's presence. All his belongings had been moved out, even if he was unwilling. I had plenty of means to make him leave. Shinduo was smart and understood me well. He knew that once I made a decision, I wouldn't change it. Compared to being thrown out by bodyguards, it was more dignified for Shinduo to leave on his own unexpectedly. Without Shinduo, I didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort. Indeed, someone you knew from the start wouldn't last should have been let go. It's a pity that in my past life, I was too stubborn. Clinging to that, I mistook Ding Ding's false sweetness for honey. After recuperating at home and regaining my health, I went to the company and began taking over everything. Back when I had Shinduo, I was content to relax and take it easy. Being a manager was no easy job, and I even started learning from the very basics, working until late into the night every day. Yet I felt an unprecedented sense of fulfillment. A month later, I dragged my tired body downstairs, only to see Shinduo standing beneath the street lamp outside the company. His shadow was stretched long and slender. During that month, Shinduo had also tried to contact me, but I had blocked him. I heard from a mutual friend that Shinduo was in a car accident. Although it was just a scrape, he also suffered a mild concussion. I didn't show excessive concern. I just asked a friend to help me send a fruit basket over. It was also a token of gratitude for Shinduo's dedicated efforts in managing the company for me over the years. When I saw Shinduo again, his hair seemed a bit longer, and his eyes were filled with exhaustion. I originally wanted to ignore him and walk right past, but Shinduo ran over and grabbed my wrist, his eyes holding an emotion I couldn't decipher: guilt, regret, and affection. Thinking of this, I laughed at myself mockingly. How could Shinduo possibly love me? Mr. Shin, mind your behavior in public. I unceremoniously shook off Shinduo's hand and spoke sternly. Shinduo stood somewhat awkwardly before me, yet his eyes were fixed intently on me. You've come back too, haven't you? This sentence was like a bomb dropped onto a calm lake. My heart, which had been undisturbed, instantly rippled with waves. I didn't seek revenge on Shinduo, only because the deeds were committed by the Shinduo of a past life. I couldn't justifiably do anything to him without reason. But the Shinduo before me now has reignited my immense hatred for him. I stared straight at him like this, even without looking in a mirror. I knew how terrifying my gaze must have been. Shinduo seemed to confirm his guess from my expression, and he gave a bitter smile. I'm sorry, just an apology. Could it really make up for the pain I suffered in my previous life? In Shinduo's eyes, I really was that easy to placate. I let out a derisive laugh. Shinduo's eyes turned bleak. I finally understand what you meant by that line you said on the day we got divorced. It was me who wronged you. I was sorry to you, and sorry to our child. That's fine. Since I know everything now, I won't keep anything bottled up anymore. Now that Mr. Shin has gotten his wish and is with his white moonlight, please don't come bothering me anymore. Since you know why I hate you so much, you should know better than to push it. We have no relationship now, and no one will stop you from being with Wu Yu anymore. Let's keep things civil between us. Sometimes I resent my own kindness and soft heart. I could have ruined Shinduo, but now I just want to stay away from him. After all, Shinduo isn't worth me having blood on my hands. Shinduo's thin lips moved slightly. He slowly took a step forward, raising his hand as if to grasp mine, his face full of hesitation. I took a step back, finding it all rather amusing. What? Are you trying to make Wu Yu misunderstand? Shinduo's hand stopped, his voice hoarse. I haven't been with Wu Yu, you know, since you died. I haven't had a single peaceful night's sleep. I thought I hated you, but slowly I came to realize that the person I've always loved is you. Please give me a chance to make it up to you. Okay, I didn't know much about what happened after my death in my previous life, but looking at Shinduo's deep and sincere expression, I only felt disgust. My eyes were icy cold. The reason you can still stand before me, whole and unharmed, isn't because I have any lingering affection for you, but because I showed mercy. I will not become someone like you, but if you continue to cause me trouble, I won't mind making you experience the same pain I've endured. Shinduo wanted to say more, but was intimidated by a single glance from me. I turned and walked away. Affection that comes too late is cheaper than grass. Actually, I had already learned from mutual friends that Wu Yu's initial decision wasn't driven by the mindset of as long as it's not Shinduo, then it doesn't matter who I marry. Wu Yu had always liked that man, but she wanted to keep her options open, which is why she said those things to Shinduo, making him believe that Wu Yu married out of sheer disappointment. Indeed, anyone with a brain should realize that Wu Yu could have remained single and waited for Shinduo all along. How could she possibly marry someone she didn't love and have a child after Shinduo and I divorced? Wu Yu refused to believe that Shinduo hadn't received a single cent from the settlement. She clung to him persistently. Even the car accident was caused by a sudden Argument between the two of them in the vehicle. Wu Yu urged Shinduo to confront me and reclaim what she believed was rightfully his share of the assets. When Shinduo refused, Wu Yu threw a fit, shouting and even grabbing the steering wheel. The car lost control and crashed into a utility pole. Although Shinduo suffered a head injury, his mind became clearer than ever. Perhaps that once gentle and dazzling white moonlight, in that very instant, became utterly detestable in his previous life. Shinduo couldn't forget Wu Yu simply because she died in his heart during her most beautiful years. I got into the car and saw Wu Yu running angrily towards Shinduo in the rearview mirror. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but based on Wu Yu's lip movements I caught some fragmented information. Things like a dog can't change its habit of eating shit, always eyeing the pot while eating from the bowl, or aren't I your favorite woman? Why are you looking for Ren Leong? Shinduo's eyes were filled with exhaustion and disgust. Indeed, Shinduo was always like this. When he had me, he was thinking of Wu Yu. Now that I've stepped aside for them, he comes crawling back to come find me. Shinduo shook off Wu Yu and only said a few words. I never agreed to be with you, so don't follow me anymore. Wu Yu grew embarrassed and enraged. You think I care about being with you? Back then, you were just a broke loser. If it weren't for the Ren family's fortune, who would have taken a liking to you? In the end, Wu Yu let the truth slip. I thought Shinduo would be hurt, but he only smiled in relief. Yeah, without Ren Leong, I'm just a dog. Are you satisfied now? Can you get lost? The outcome of the matter was that Wu Yu left in a huff, having watched the drama unfold. I stepped on the gas and drove away. In the rearview mirror, Shinduo was staring fixedly at my car. As for Shinduo coming to find me earlier, I wasn't sure if he truly regretted it, but at this moment, I could confirm that he genuinely did. He gave up a wife who was wealthy, beautiful, and talented for a shrew. Isn't that exactly what Shinduo wanted? I thought Shinduo had dignity and wouldn't cross paths with me again. I never expected that during the company's interview period. While I was waiting as an interviewer for the next candidate to arrive, the moment the door opened, I saw Shinduo. Shinduo looked refreshed and spirited, clearly having dressed up meticulously for this interview. Everyone present knew Shinduo, the former general manager who had now become an intern. Everyone exchanged glances, cautiously observing my reaction, and I did not shy away from Shinduo's intense gaze. After asking a few standard questions, I put down my pen and looked up at Shinduo. What makes you think you have an advantage over those younger candidates? Shinduo spoke with confidence. I've been here for 5 years and served as general manager for 3, so I understand the company's direction better than anyone. Only I can truly help you. Shinduo was too confident, and the room fell silent. I just curled my lips and spoke unhurriedly. The company has long since been updated and transformed. What I need is vibrant new blood. Your era is long gone, not just the company, but also the feelings of the past. I wanted to make it clear to Shinduo that I've started a new life and won't dwell on past pain anymore. Shinduo's expression told me he understood my underlying meaning, and for a moment, he was at a loss for words. I continued to speak. I'm sorry, Mr. Shin doesn't seem to meet our company's recruitment standards. Next, wait. Shinduo stopped me and looked at the 2 interviewers beside me. Please step out for a moment. I need to speak with your president Ren. The 2 interviewers seemed conflicted, looking at me with hesitation. I couldn't even be bothered to lift my eyelids. It seems Mr. Shen and I have nothing left to discuss. We are currently working. If there's nothing important, please don't delay us. I'm done with work. Shinduo grew anxious. He stood up, placing both hands on my desk. Lu Yang, I admit I was wrong. I truly was. Just let me stay by your side. I'll do anything. Without you, I simply can't go on living. The 2 interviewers beside us covered their faces with their notebooks. Clearly, the situation wasn't suitable for them to remain, but since I hadn't dismissed them, they had no choice but to stay put. The interview office was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I could even hear Shinduo's frantic heartbeat. In the past, I gave Shinduo many chances. I showered him with love, power, money, to the point where I didn't live a single day as myself. In my last moments of my previous life, all I wanted was for Shinduo to save me, but Shinduo's indifference was beyond my expectations, making me realize I was a complete fool. Shinduo's eyes were fixed tightly on me, his trembling hands betraying the tension in his heart. His gaze shifted, seeming to beg, to hope. I slowly curved my lips and spoke the most terrifying words in the calmest tone. Then go die. As soon as the words fell, Shinduo seemed to lose all strength, his straight back collapsing. I don't know what state of mind Shinduo was in when he walked out. He only left behind one sentence. If my death can atone for the wrongs I committed against you, then I will do it. I didn't respond, just calmly called for the next interviewee as if nothing had happened while I was interviewing the next person. Before I could even ask the second question, a commotion erupted outside. Someone jumped off the building. My heart skipped a beat. Everyone around me rushed out. I leaned back in the chair and didn't look at the tragic scene outside. Even if I hadn't looked, I already knew how it would end. Suddenly, I remembered that at the wedding, Shinduo had ignored the officiant's ceremony and secretly kissed me. Maybe Shinduo really did like me once. You really are a self. Righteous as ever, I sniffled and stood up. After all, I still had a mess to clean up afterward. Shinduo, we're even now. Story 2, after returning from an overseas exchange program, there was a new girl beside my childhood friend. Whenever we had an argument, she would timidly yet bravely stand in front of him to protect him, saying, You're so disrespectful, he's not your dog. I haughtily lifted my chin towards my childhood friend and said, My childhood friend expressionlessly pushed her aside and looked at me with a solemn gaze, saying, Woof. When the clumsy shop assistant delivered the wrong drink for the third time, I impatiently lifted my chin towards the bodyguard beside me. Check out, I don't want it anymore. Before the bodyguard could move, the shop assistant erupted first. Customer, why do you have to pick on me? Her hand holding the tray was trembling slightly, and her eyes were filled with suppressed grievances. Don't you think this is disrespectful? The surrounding customers all looked over. The shop assistant seemed to have drawn great courage from those sympathetic gazes. I made this drink with great effort. I stood up expressionlessly and looked down at her from above. Meeting my gaze, she flinched but stubbornly continued, Even though I'm just a small-time waitress, we're equal. Why do you disrespect me like this? I raised my hand to stop the bodyguard behind me and said in a sarcastic tone, What? Should I kowtow 3 times to thank you for getting the drink wrong 3 times? A low murmur of laughter spread among the onlookers. I didn't mean to. Her face turned red, and her watery eyes quickly filled with tears. I'm sore. Before she could finish saying sorry, another long-haired girl suddenly rushed up like a firecracker and protectively stood in front of her, glaring at me with full alertness. Our Yen has already apologized. What else do you want? The way they looked at me was as if I were a vicious villain bullying the weak. I tugged at the corners of my lips, both angry and amused. This well-performed tear-jerking drama finally attracted the store manager. She furrowed her brows tightly. By Yen, what's wrong again? The bodyguard presented the milk tea with floating peanut crumbs to the store manager and said in a cold voice, Our young lady is allergic to peanuts. The store manager's expression changed. I'm sorry, this is indeed our mistake. What kind of compensation do you need? I slowly put forward my suggestion. I just hope you can train your employees better in the future so that there won't be another victim. The store manager gave the two a fierce glare. Of course, we'll definitely deal severely with an employee who keeps causing trouble like this. The two of them turned pale and glared at me resentfully. I thought this was just an unpleasant little episode. While waiting for the driver, I met the shop assistant named by Yen again. She had changed into a washed-out school uniform, and her eyes were red. Her firecracker-like friend waved her fist indignantly in the air. Yen, the store manager is too much. Why did she fire you just because of that unreasonable customer? You must ask young Master Lujua to stand up for you. Let's see how those snobbish people can be arrogant in the future. Lujua, hearing the familiar name, my heart skipped a beat. By Yen blushed shyly. Me and brother Lujua. That was just old Master Lu's joke. It doesn't count. Her eyelashes fluttered. Besides, I heard he has a childhood friend. The firecracker was. How could Lujua like that spoiled young lady? Isn't that how it is in novels? The handsome and cool male lead bravely defies his family for the kind-hearted female lead. Any childhood friend fiancé is just a vicious supporting female character. You're the one who saved old Master Lu's life. You're in a favorable position, understand? You're the girl who truly deserves Lujua. You're the fiancé personally designated by old Master Lu. She held by Yen's shoulders and encouraged her loudly. You are the one who really matches Lujua. You are the fiancé personally appointed by the old master of the Lu family. Bai Yen seemed to be a bit more cheered up and nodded firmly. Yeah, I folded my arms in disbelief. If she was Lujua's fiancé, then who was I? Lujua and I had been childhood sweethearts since we were little, and our parents had made a betrothal agreement when we were in our mother's wombs. I secretly returned to the country this time, originally planning to give him a surprise unexpectedly. This was the scene that greeted me. I let out a sneer. Only then did the two notice my presence. Bai Yen's face instantly turned deathly pale. I've already been fired by the store manager because of you. Why can't you leave me alone? Is it fun to humiliate a poor person like me? Fine, it's all my fault. Okay. With a choked sob, she bowed deeply to me, probably too aggrieved. Her tears streamed down desperately and soon wet the ground. I'm really sorry for not being able to satisfy you, young lady. The passers-by around all cast condemning glances at me. The firecracker even clenched her fists tightly, as if she was about to rush up and hit me the next second. I folded my arms and said coolly, you seem to be quite good at shifting the blame. Besides, because of me, do you know that allergies can be fatal? What? Do you think I was too lenient? I didn't know. Her lips were trembling, and she tugged at the corner of her clothes helplessly. At this moment, a white Bentley suddenly stopped beside us. The rear seat door was opened respectfully by the driver. A cold and arrogant young man stepped out. He was tall and slender, and his deep and handsome features showed a bit of aloofness due to the coldness between his brows. Yen Yen, it's young Master Lu Xue. The firecracker's eyes lit up, and she pushed by Yen Yen in surprise. He must be here to back you up. A blush rose on Bai Yen Yen's face, and she gave her a coy look, pretending to resist hearing the commotion. Lu Xue's crow feather-like eyelashes fluttered, and his gaze swept over with a chill. His indifferent gaze passed over them, then it landed on my face. Bai Yen Yen tearfully stepped forward. Brother Lu Xue, I'm so sorry to trouble you. It's actually a misunderstanding. This young lady didn't bully. Her voice stopped abruptly, because Lu Xue reached out and hugged me. He meekly lowered his head, and his furry head rubbed against my neck, making it itchy. Sway, you're back, Brother Lu Xue. You two know each other. Bai Yen Yen's frail body swayed, and she looked at this scene in disbelief, her face deathly pale. The firecracker beside her couldn't help but take a step forward and said indignantly on her behalf, young Master Lu, what do you mean? Yen Yen has been bullied like this by her. How can you side with an outsider? The bodyguard moved silently, blocking their view. Like a dark shadow, Lu Xue just hugged me tightly, ignoring everything. He had always been this self-centered. People outside said that Lu Xue was arrogant and cold, but only I knew that he was actually recalling some moments. My ears felt slightly warm, and I grabbed the clothes on his back. Didn't you fly over to see me last week? I complained in a low voice. You're so clingy, you rubbed off my sunscreen. Probably because the bodyguard was too conspicuous. The surrounding passers-by all cast curious glances. I blushed and ordered harshly, everyone is watching. Xue, let go. Lu Xue just mumbled two words, no way. I stared at him angrily. Why was he being so disobedient today? Perhaps afraid of making me angry. He reluctantly loosened his arms a little and looked at me intently with his eyes downcast. My heart softened at his look. Just as I was about to speak, the shrill voice sounded again, young Master Lu, don't you see that Yen Yen is crying? I frowned and looked over, probably unwilling to be ignored. The firecracker was trying to push past the bodyguard. The bodyguard looked at her coldly and didn't budge. Bai Yen Yen's sobbing voice came intermittently. It's okay. I'm just worried that if Brother Lu Xue's fiancé abroad finds out, will she be unhappy? I curled my lips, lazily poked Lu Xue's chest with my finger, and said in a sarcastic tone, Brother Lu Xue, what should we do if your fiancé is unhappy? Lu Xue grabbed my fidgeting hand and finally coldly lifted his eyelids and glanced over. Bai Yen Yen unconsciously straightened her back, her eyes full of anticipation. He indifferently spat out a few words. It's none of your business. Scram. Bai Yen Yen let out a whimper and ran away, covering her face. The firecracker gave me a fierce glare and chased after her. The two walked slowly. When the car passed them, I vaguely heard the firecracker loudly cheering her up. Yen Yen, young Master Lu must be unhappy because of the love letter you received. He's deliberately trying to make you jealous. Bai Yen Yen stopped and sniffled in agreement. You're right. I made him unhappy last time. I want to explain it clearly to him, but every time I go to the Lu family, he's not there. The firecracker tapped her forehead in frustration. You're so stupid. Don't you have the biggest backer? I blinked my eyes, finding it interesting. A warm hand quietly covered my eyes. Lu Xue's voice carried a hint of unhappiness. Sway, don't keep looking at others. His head gently leaned against my neck, making my shoulders sink. Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? I originally wanted to give you a surprise, but I didn't expect. I pulled his hand down and glanced out of the window. The figures of the two had long disappeared from sight. Lu Xue explained indifferently. A while ago, Grandpa ran away from home, and she sent him to the police station. Grandpa Lu had Alzheimer's disease a few years ago. He would have occasional episodes, and although there was a housekeeper, there were still inevitable oversights. I asked worriedly, is Grandpa okay? He's fine. The housekeeper noticed in time. I felt relieved and then started to complain jealously. And then you got a fiancé? No way. Lu Xue pursed his lips in resistance. He looked at me intently and said word by word, I only want Sway. I snorted in a matter-of-fact way. Of course, you'd better know your place. as we were talking, the car stopped. Looking at the familiar gate outside the window, I absent-mindedly put my hand on the door opening button. There are still a bunch of messes waiting for me back at school. That annoying vice principal of the orchestra again. The next second, Lujua suddenly pulled me over and leaned in to kiss me. It was a fleeting kiss, like a dragonfly skimming the water. The heat on my face rose a beat later. Lujua. I covered my lips and glared at him in embarrassment and annoyance. His pitch-black eyes reflected only my figure, and the corners of his lips curved slightly. Fiancé, see you at school. This guy, Lujua, Ning Sui, it's over. What are you still daydreaming about? The cellist beside me nudged me with her elbow, looking gossipy. Why is your face so red? I unconsciously pursed my lips and came back to my senses. It's nothing. My life after returning to the country quickly got back on track for the performance next month. I immediately plunged into intensive rehearsals. As soon as I came back, today's rehearsal came to an end just as I put my violin into the case. A bright smiling face came into view. Miss Ning, would you do me the honor of going on a date? I didn't even raise my eyelids. I'm busy, the cellist teased him. Vice principal, find the right person to show off to. She's not one of your little fans. The vice principal shrugged as if used to it and half-jokingly complained. Miss Ning, do you have to be so cold? I ignored him and looked towards the door. Shua, let's go. Lujua came to pick me up. Every day he was used to standing in the shadows, like a silent shadow, but I could always spot him first. He took the violin case from my hand and carried it on his back, then skillfully took my hand with his other hand. The warmth in his palm was familiar and reassuring. The vice principal whistled maliciously behind me. Miss Ning, what's so interesting about a childhood friend? Can you tell the difference between love and habit? Lujua's steps paused for a moment, but he held my hand even tighter. I tilted my head and looked at him thoughtfully. The lights in the corridor flickered slightly. The giggling voices of several girls came from the corner. So Ning Sui is the legendary childhood friend of Lujua. I wonder what it's like to date such a cold-hearted person. Lujua looks so cold. Would he say please before kissing? The giggling voices gradually faded away. What they didn't know was that if they walked a few more steps forward, they would see Lujua pinning me against the wall. The violin case lay neglected at our feet and he was kissing me passionately on the lips. They didn't understand him at all. I bit Lujua's lower lip in frustration and whispered, Shua, you're so stupid. Why care about what they say? No one else is as tall or as good looking as you. From childhood to adulthood, it was you who accompanied me to practice the violin, fought for me, and took the blame for me. The angrier I got as I spoke, meeting his increasingly dark eyes, I blurted out, I'm not a fool like you. How could I not tell the difference between habit and love? The consequence of accidentally blurting out my true feelings was when the rehearsal ended the next day, the cellist gave me a meaningful wink. Ning Sui, I'd been wanting to ask, why is your mouth so swollen? I uncomfortably put down the strings, stood up with a straight face, and said, Lujua forgot something. I'm going to return it to him. The cellist let out a woe sound. Was it that intense? I glared at her irritably. Shut up. I almost fled in a hurry. Just as I reached the door of Lujua's classroom, I saw the dean personally leading a girl onto the podium. He was all smiles, leading the applause. This is the new transfer student. Let's welcome her. The girl on the podium was wearing obviously ill-fitting old clothes, and her voice trembled with nervousness. Hello, everyone, my name is Bai Yen Yen. After a few seconds of silence, the classroom erupted. Is there a Bai family in the circle? Her shoes are coming unglued. Our school accepts such a poor person. The dean coughed twice to no avail and left after giving a few instructions. Only Bai Yen Yen, looking nervous and ill at ease, was left. She hugged her tattered school bag tightly, her knuckles turning white. After a brief moment of surprise, I indifferently withdrew my gaze from Lujua's empty seat. Just as I turned to leave, I heard a timid voice from behind. Excuse me, which seat does Lujua sit in? I stopped in my tracks and looked back at the podium. Transfer student. What's your relationship with Lujua? Someone asked curiously, although old Master Lu hopes, a blush of hesitation spread across her face. But I'm just friends with brother Lujua. The scattered whispers suddenly stopped. The classroom fell into an odd silence, with occasional glances cast towards me by the door. Bai Yen Yen was completely unaware, not getting a response. She looked around and then hesitantly fixed her eyes on the only table in the corner without a deskmate. Seeing that her hand was about to reach for a sheet of music on the table, I spoke unhurriedly. Transfer student, has anyone ever told you that it's impolite to touch other people's things casually? You probably can't afford to compensate for my sheet music. Only then did Bai Yanyan notice my presence. She blushed with embarrassment. It's you again. Unfortunately, no one here was going to take her side. Seeing that no one came to her rescue, she summoned up her courage and asked in a low voice, "Isn't this Brother Lu Shua's table? Why are your things here?" I just looked at her with a faint smile, not answering. The situation was at a standstill until someone quietly took my hand from behind. "Sui Sui, Brother Lu Shua." Bai Yanyan called out his name pitifully, as if seeing a savior. Lu Shua seemed not to hear, looking down at me intently. "You have something to give me." I knew I couldn't hide it from him. I pursed my lips and let him open my clenched hand, revealing the button that I accidentally tore off yesterday. "So it was with you." A faint smile appeared in his eyes. "Why you putting your things on Brother Lu Shua's table? Isn't it a bit inappropriate?" An eager voice sounded. Bai Yanyan didn't notice the surprised looks from the others and continued, "Have you asked for his opinion?" Lu Shua's eyes turned cold. I squeezed his hand, indicating that he shouldn't speak, and asked curiously, "So what's your suggestion?" Bai Yanyan batted her watery eyes, hesitating. "Even if your Brother Lu Shua's sister, isn't it a bit too lacking in boundaries? Brother Lu Shua will have to find a girlfriend someday. What if his future girlfriend minds?" The onlookers couldn't help but laugh. "Transfer student. Are you kidding? Who told you she's Lu Shua's sister?" Bai Yanyan stubbornly bit her lip, but they clearly. I took a step forward, showing our hands intertwined with fingers. Bai Yanyan seemed stabbed by this scene, and her face turned a bit pale. I lazily leaned against Lu Shua. "Let me introduce myself again. My name is Ning Sui." I maliciously curled my lips. "I heard you're Lu Shua's fiancé. Coincidentally, so am I." As soon as the words fell, all the color drained from Bai Yanyan's face. She took a hasty step forward. "Why you, weren't you abroad?" I don't know who let out a sneer first. I also raised my eyebrows in amusement. "Transfer student. I just went abroad for an exchange program temporarily. I'll be back." I drawled the words slowly. "Understand, but." Bai Yanyan bit her lip and looked at Lu Shua hesitantly. Lu Shua played with my fingers, his expression indifferent. "I don't know what gave you the wrong idea. My fiancé has always been Sui Sui. If it's because of my grandpa." He paused, his tone emotionless. "After transferring you to this school as you requested, your debt of gratitude to the Lu family ends here." Bai Yanyan showed a hurt expression. "Brother Lu Shua, are you still angry with me?" "That boy last time actually." Lu Shua interrupted her indifferently. "No need to tell me. Your affairs have nothing to do with me." Mocking gazes focused on her. Some people were whispering and pointing. "How dare she? They're a perfect match, being childhood sweethearts. What on earth is she?" She couldn't bear it and trembled slightly. Finally, she flung out a sentence. You're bullying me too much." Then she rushed out of the door. I shrugged without any guilt. Throughout the morning, Bai Yanyan didn't come back. During the rehearsal break, I heard sobbing in the bathroom. I came out of the cubicle and saw a familiar figure on the phone by the sink. "But, that Ning Sui is back. Will Brother Lu Shua still like me?" The sound insulation of her phone was poor. The voice of the firecracker on the other end of the phone was clearly audible. "Yan, haven't you heard? A childhood friend can't compare to a new love. Lu Shua just mistakes habit for love." Bai Yanyan seemed comforted. She nodded with tears in her eyes. "You're right. I can't give up. I'm so ordinary, yet I've had so many intersections with someone as outstanding as Brother Lu Shua. It must be fate that brought us together." She stopped crying and smiled, clenching her fists to cheer herself up. "Time will tell. Sooner or later, I'll make Brother Lu Shua look at me in a new light." I curled my lips and reached out to turn on the faucet. The sound of running water started, and Bai Yanyan jumped in surprise. "It's you again." Tears of vulnerability sparkled in her eyes. What right do you have to eavesdrop on my call?" "Eavesdrop? Come on, I was here first." I tilted my head, carefully examining the delicate but plain face in front of me. "A childhood friend can't compare to a new love." I raised my eyebrows at Bai Yanyan with a faint smile. "I only know that what's mine, stays mine." "I heard you made the new transfer student cry." When the rehearsal ended, the cellist came to gossip with me. Looking playful, I put my violin in the case and shrugged half-heartedly. "Really, I didn't know," she said excitedly. "Then you definitely don't know what happened next." "I heard she brought a homemade lunchbox to give to Lu Shua today, but was told, transfer student, stop waiting. He transferred classes because you annoyed him." Another person vividly relayed the story, and a low laugh echoed in the training hall. "She really has nothing better to do," I concluded, uninterested. "Sui Sui, Lu Shua's familiar voice reached my ears. I handed him the violin case and walked out of the training hall side by side with him. To be honest, I didn't take Bai Yanyan seriously if she didn't keep showing up in front of me annoyingly. I'd be less interested in her than in the upcoming summer trip every year at this time. The school organizes a summer trip this year. Instead of going abroad, we chose a coastal city in the country. Thinking of last year's experience, I reminded him with a sense of crisis. Shwa, we didn't bring enough sunscreen last year. This time, pack a big tube for me. I complained pitifully. I got tanned last year. I'm not pretty anymore. Lujua looked at me intently, seriously emphasizing, that's not true, you've always been beautiful. After a pause, he suddenly said in a low voice, Sway, let's not go this year. Why? I asked casually, then held out my hand to him in dissatisfaction. Shwa, why aren't you holding my hand today? Lujua hesitated for a moment, then took my hand the next second, his fingers curled up as if burned. It was just a fleeting moment, and then he nonchalantly held my hand tightly again, but I immediately stopped. Sensing something was wrong, I grabbed his hand with my sleeve, examining it carefully, but saw no wounds, so I simply asked, what's wrong with your hand? Lujua replied, nothing. I frowned, standing in front of him and asking seriously, Shwa, are you hiding something from me? Lujua moved his lips. As soon as I saw his expression, I knew something was up. Lujua, I'm warning you. I'm getting angry. I stared into his eyes. Have you forgotten what I told you last time? As I remembered, I didn't quarrel with Lujua very often. There was only one time when he got injured while skiing abroad and even colluded with my mom to hide it from me. I got really angry and didn't go to the Lu family for a long time. Since then, he got rid of the bad habit of keeping everything to himself. That time, he even cried because I ignored him. A trace of struggle flashed across Lujua's brows. But in the end, he only said 3 words, I'm fine. I stomped on his foot with my leather shoes, so angry that I laughed instead. Fine, very good, Lujua, then don't talk to me for the rest of your life. This was probably the longest Cold War between Lujua and me since we were kids. Even when I was lying on the beach chair by the sea, I held back from saying a single word to him. Feeling a persistent gaze following me all the time, I simply covered my head with a bath towel, not giving him a single glance. I don't know how long it took. Someone pulled down my bath towel. I'm telling you, I won't forgive you easily. The complaint I had been holding back for a long time was about to blurt out, but I swallowed it back. Oh, it's you, I said listlessly, pouting. Not who you expected. Disappointed, the cellist adjusted the bath towel around her shoulders, looking gossipy. Where's your little childhood friend? Isn't he usually glued to you? She observed my expression. Did you have a fight? Of course not, I said stubbornly. She sat up straight and looked around, then her eyes fixed in a certain direction. Wow, he's been looking at you longingly from behind. He looks like a stray dog that's been abandoned. She laughed. I couldn't help but take a peek and saw Bai Yan walking over to talk to Lujua with a small bottle in her hand. I immediately sneered and said sarcastically, isn't there someone to serve him hand and foot? The cellist teased with a smile. Jealous. I don't think he paid her any attention. Huh. I sat up straight. Lujua actually took it, judging from his lip movements. He was saying thank you. Bai Yan showed a delighted expression and left with a light step. I blankly covered myself with the bath towel again. He's dead to me. In the evening, I got into the tent early. As soon as the cellist came in, she threw a small bottle at me. I caught it. Confused. What's this? From your little childhood friend, he said. The cellist rolled her eyes and imitated Lujua's cold tone. Sway is prone to getting bitten by bugs at night. I think it's the same thing the transfer student gave him during the day. What a case of giving away something that's not his to give. She clicked her tongue and concluded. I had a hard time suppressing the corners of my mouth from rising. I snorted haughtily. I don't want something from the transfer student. Early the next morning, I walked straight up to Bai Yan and handed her the small bottle. Here, take it back. Bai Yan's face turned deathly pale. Why is it with you? I ignored her. Without Lujua around, my temper seemed to get worse. At lunchtime, the annoying vice principal came to bother me. I heard there will be a meteor shower tonight, Miss Ning. How about? I sat up straight and noticed that Bai Yan was going to find Lujua again this time. They were not far away, and her sobbing accusation clearly reached my ears. I gave that to you. Don't you think this is cruel to me? Lujua was looking straight in my and the vice principal's direction, his voice sounding absent-minded. I asked my bodyguard to transfer money to you. I thought you were selling it to me. Lujua, you're too much. Bai Yan stomped her foot and ran away crying. The next second, Lujua walked straight towards me. I turned my head to look at the vice principal and deliberately said loudly, didn't we agree to watch the meteor shower tonight? I want to watch it too. Sway. I ignored Lujua's face, which seemed to have something to say but held back. After making an appointment with the vice principal, I went back into the tent. When I woke up, what greeted me was the cellist's anxious face. Ning Sui, Lu Jue, and Bai Yanyan are missing. No one answered the phone, and all the trackers on Lu Jue's body strangely stopped working. I forced myself to ignore my panicked heartbeat, check the surveillance. On the surveillance footage, Lu Jue and Bai Yanyan walked into the warehouse together and were then accidentally locked inside by the yawning warehouse keeper. The cellist looked at me sympathetically, carefully observing my expression. Ning Sui, I just sniffed, pulling the casually draped coat tighter around me. Please help me contact the security guards. The cellist hesitated. Are we really going in? What if? All I know is that guy has claustrophobia. I lifted my chin, and the security guards who rushed over immediately used tools to break open the door. As the light shone into the warehouse, I saw Lu Jue at a glance. He was leaning in the shadow, his body tense. In this state, Lu Jue was insensitive to everything around him except to me. Almost the moment I entered the door, he looked over. Our eyes met, his lips moved, and I could vaguely make out the word sui sui. I was still mad at him, but my heart softened. Bai Yanyan suddenly emerged from somewhere. She hesitated, trying to explain to me. Deep, don't get me wrong, nothing happened between us. I ignored her, just tilted my head and looked at Lu Jue. I'm tired. I made a coquettish request. Jue, carry me. How can you be so disrespectful? Bai Yanyan came to her senses like a savior. She stood in front of Lu Jue to protect him. He won't listen to you. He's not your dog. I still didn't pay attention to her, just haughtily lifted my chin. As soon as I spoke, Lu Jue wordlessly pushed her aside. He looked at me with a solemn gaze, and the corners of his pale lips curved. Woof. Bai Yanyan's face turned deathly pale, and she took an incredulous step back. Lu Jue didn't spare her even a glance. As I asked, he squatted down in front of me. I looked down at him. He was fastidious about cleanliness, and his clothes were always spotless. At this moment, the hem of his drooping clothes was a bit dusty, but he didn't care. He just pleaded softly, Sui Sui, let's make up. I was silent for a moment, then smiled. Just like many times in the past, I jumped onto his back and affectionately put my arms around his neck. As we passed by Bai Yanyan, who was like a wooden statue, I complained in a low voice, Jue, you're so cold. Yeah, then hold on tighter. I added, these shoes are so hard today, my ankle is all red from rubbing. And he responded just as he had every time before, okay, I'll put some medicine on it for you when we get back. I emphasized, I haven't forgiven you yet. Lu Jue's voice became sullen. I just had a dream that you said you only had a habit of me. Just because of this, I was so angry that I pounded his shoulder hard. Are you an idiot? How can you take a dream seriously? Then what? What happened next? I asked. Lu Jue was never good at lying. He was silent for a few seconds, and his tone was a bit obscure. Then you fell in love with someone else and had a very happy life for a long time. Although I was a bit sleepy, I still unceremoniously bit his shoulder. You're lying to me again. No. In a daze, I heard Lu Jue's voice tremble slightly. Sui Sui, you'll always be safe. We ended up missing the meteor shower that night. In the second half of the night, since everyone wasn't sleepy, we went to pick up seashells along the beach. Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of something from the corner of my eye. Amidst the successive exclamations, I vaguely saw Lu Jue's face change. Sui Sui. The next second, a huge wave engulfed me. The salty seawater instantly rushed into my ears, nose. Everything went black in front of my eyes, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was tightly held in Lu Jue's arms. His whole body was shaking. All I could see was white, and I was in the hospital. I habitually patted his back. Jue, I'm okay. The cellist, with red-rimmed eyes, was guarding beside us. If it wasn't for Lu Jue suddenly jumping into the sea, we wouldn't have noticed that you were swept into the sea. Thank goodness. She patted her chest, still in shock. Jump into the sea. My eyes immediately turned red with anxiety. The school clearly has lifeguards. Are you crazy? Lu Jue's face was so pale that it was almost transparent. He coughed softly. Sui Sui, as long as you're okay. You're so stupid. You didn't have to follow me to send. Don't say that word. Lu Jue's side face suddenly tensed up, showing a rare vulnerability. His voice was trembling. Sui Sui, I don't want to hear it. Jue, brother Lu Jue, do you know that you almost lost your life? Bai Yanyan suddenly rushed in, her face full of tears, shouting at him. She pointed at me, her voice on the verge of collapse. Is she really that important to you? You know, you were supposed to be my male lead. The cellist couldn't stand it anymore. She frowned and stood up. Transfer student. What nonsense are you talking about? Ning Sui hasn't even said anything yet. If you're here to disturb the patient's rest, you're not welcome. Only then did Bai Yanyan come to her senses. I I didn't mean anything else, I just hope. She bit her lower lip, looking straight at Lu Jue. You can take good care of yourself. Lu Jue's expression was cold, his eyes had only been on me from beginning to end. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not your male lead. If I'm the male lead, my female lead will only be Sui Sui. Lu Jue's brows and eyes relaxed slightly. He squeezed my hand reassuringly. Sui Sui, don't be afraid. His tone was firm, as if making a vow. You'll have a smooth life from now on. I was fine, but Lu Jue had mild aspiration pneumonia and needed to be hospitalized for a while after the summer trip. Bai Yanyan quietly transferred schools, unlike when she came, which was very ostentatious. Before leaving, she only came to me in the pale corridor of the hospital. She stopped in front of me, stepping on the sunset. Ning Sui, I've been waiting for you for a long time. She changed back to the washed-out old school uniform she wore at first. There seemed to be a bit more melancholy between her brows. I raised my eyebrows. Trans, do you want something from me? Bai Yanyan stared at me intently, then suddenly said, there's always a voice in my head telling me, I'm the destined female lead. As soon as I show up, my male lead will fall in love with me without hesitation, fight against the world for me, and shield me from the wind and rain. I thought for a moment and gave a polite comment. Different fields are like different worlds. Good luck to you. She tugged at the corners of her lips self-deprecatingly, but on that night, that voice told me that even gods can't control people's hearts. Bai Yanyan's expression was neither crying nor smiling. This world that doesn't belong to me really feels like a dream. She dejectedly withdrew her gaze from Lu Jue's ward and disappeared step by step in the corridor. I thought about it for a few seconds, not understanding, and decided to leave this confusion to Lu Jue. Unexpectedly, as soon as I entered the ward, I was pulled into a familiar warm embrace. Unhappy about being left alone for so long, Lu Jue gently bit my earlobe. Sui Sui, you were gone for so long. I immediately blushed and pushed him away. Lu Jue, have some self-awareness as a patient. I forcefully pushed him back onto the bed with a show of force. I feel something is off. Jue, what kind of dream did you have? What secret do you and that transfer student have behind my back, this time? I want the truth. I crossed my arms and emphasized seriously. Lu Jue thought for a while, about to speak, when I remembered something and suddenly felt a sense of belated crisis. Hey, forget about that for now. First, promise me that you won't suddenly fall in love with some new girl out of the blue, not in the past, and definitely not in the future. Lu Jue pinched my face, and the corners of his mouth curved slightly. His eyes reflected the entire evening glow, as if a cluster of dancing flames was embedded in them. Yes, Miss Fiancé. He pressed the back of my neck and kissed me. Outside the window, the afterglow of the setting sun spread across the sky, and the clouds were dyed orange-red, like the end of the world. Lu Jue's side story. The day before Ning Sui returned to the country, Lu Jue had a dream. He dreamed of the plot. The childhood friend fell in love with someone else, attracted by the simple and cute female lead, while the childhood sweetheart passed away unexpectedly, becoming an eternal white moonlight. This was the ending carefully arranged by the god of destiny for this pair of childhood sweethearts in the original story. Because he was the male lead, but she was not the female lead belonging to him. Ning Sui returned to the country earlier as in the dream, and the gears of fate began to turn according to the plot. After Ning Sui and Bai Yanyan had conflicts, Lu Jue would stand by Bai Yanyan's side again and again, thinking of the kindness she had shown. Bai Yanyan became a thorn between them that couldn't be pulled out. At first, it was just an inconspicuous little spark, but in the end, it ignited a raging fire. Across the mountains. Finally, the situation became irreversible. Since then, there was a rift between the childhood sweethearts, and they gradually drifted apart. But in Lu Jue's eyes, there had always been only that one person. She illuminated his entire life. When the familiar face came into view and their eyes met again, Lu Jue still heard the sound of his own heartbeat. As always, completely smitten. On the empty street with few pedestrians, he hugged her without caring about anyone else. Jue, let go. No, fate was being verified one by one. It seemed that there was an invisible force sparing no effort to correct the plot. The girl named Bai Yanyan infiltrated Lu Jue's life everywhere as the female lead. She had many halos around her. She was the savior of Lu Jue's grandfather, a delicate little white flower in sharp contrast to the proud childhood sweetheart, and a poor transfer student who was bullied. They clearly belonged to two different worlds, but they had more and more intersections. It seemed that even the heavens were matchmaking for them. However, Lu Zhuo didn't waver in the slightest. He didn't believe in predestination. He would only swim upstream in the river favored by Ning Sui if the previous resistance to the plot was just small-scale. The situation escalated again on the eve of the summer trip. Every time Lu Zhuo came into contact with Ning Sui, he felt as if he was being burned. This was a warning from fate. Lu Zhuo didn't care about his own safety, but when it came to Ning Sui, he was finally afraid. He tried to tell Ning Sui the truth, but was restricted and couldn't say it. Ning Sui was indeed angry. The night Ning Sui agreed to go watch the meteor shower with the vice principal, Bai Yanyan came to him. She said, "Lu Zhuo, I know when Ning Sui will be in danger. Come with me, and I'll tell you." There were only a few fragments in the dream, and there was no accurate time for Ning Sui's accident. I slowly put forward my suggestion. "I just hope you can train your employees better in the future so that there won't be another victim." Unexpectedly, after they finished talking, the warehouse was locked. The endless darkness gradually eroded his sanity. Lu Zhuo knew that this was the punishment for his repeated resistance to the plot. Fortunately, his Sui once again appeared in front of him, stepping on the light. No questioning, never doubting. She raised her chin as usual, her tone proud. "Zhuo, carry me." The plot was corrected again and again, but also changed again and again. Even if it was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree, he would never give up. The accident in the plot still happened, but this time, he was prepared. At the moment when his consciousness was on the verge of disappearing, Lu Zhuo vaguely heard the sound of the shackles of fate breaking. The god in the void seemed to sigh helplessly. "You are free." No one knew that every time the words branded on the book of fate would disappear inexplicably, the childhood friend couldn't fall in love with the little white flower. And the childhood sweetheart was also indifferent to the new arrival. The childhood sweethearts, not favored by the god of destiny, deviated from the established track again and again, rushing towards each other. For the last time, they finally embraced against the current. The childhood sweetheart withered, and the childhood friend grew old. "And I still love you." The end.